Here.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Here.
Mr. Bush.
Here.
Vice President Darrow.
Here.
President McClellan.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the board minutes from our April 9th and April 23rd sessions?
So moved.
Mr. Newmoff,
Second.
Kalinowski. Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Newmoff.
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Vice President Darrow.
Yes.
President McClellan.
Yes. And to tonight's agenda, any additions or corrections to tonight's agenda?
Board President McClellan, we have an addendum agenda for personnel action items.
With that item added to the agenda, could I ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Kalinowski and Mr. Bush. Have a roll call, please.
Ms. Kalinowski.
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff.
Yes.
Vice President Darrow.
Yes.
President McClellan.
Yes. That brings us to communications to the board and superintendent's items A through, well, superintendent items A.
A and B.
A and B, Mr. Sawyers.
Thank you, President McClellan. I'd like to begin this evening. Prior to tonight's Board of Education meeting, in cooperation with the Plain Local Education Association, the Board of Education hosted a retirement reception for the 14 retirees from the New Albany Plain Local School District for the 2017-18 school year. Some of those persons did remain for the Board of Education meeting. We'd like to publicly acknowledge them this evening to talk about their contributions to our school district. So I'm going to ask the retirees to please come forward to the podium. You'll be a trio by the time I get done for the three people that did stay, but we're going to start with Pam Charles. Pam Charles is the current coordinator of food services within the New Albany Plain Local School District. Pam has been in the school district for 34 years. She began her career in 1984, and she has watched the district evolve into its current configuration of over 5,000 students, 5 buildings, and over 40 food service staff members that currently work under her daily supervision and expertise throughout our school campus. Pam has contributed much to the New Albany Plain Local Schools over the last 34 years. Really, her contributions have been numerous and immeasurable. Pam and I have actually had some personal fun over the course of the last 5 years. I call it fun. So we're very good at trying to find new ways to create solutions to better meet the needs of kids every single day in the food service department, from customer service to food to the whole wheat restriction when you couldn't have flour, the new sodium reductions, the new caloric intake reductions that were required. The 4-ounce scoop was introduced. It's been just a roller coaster ride over the last 5 years. But we also opened the coffee shop. We did the live cook line. We tried sushi on the school campus. So we've had a really good time really listening to kids and incorporating their voices into the daily food service environment. Pam actually has been an incredible asset. The Board of Education knows this, and I don't think it's widely understood by our community at large, but our food service program is self-sustaining. She has to pay 100% of all costs related to food services, including personnel, and we're a personnel business because it takes people to prepare and serve food every single day. Pam has also been instrumental in helping to support the incorporation of from-scratch cooking. So we've gotten rid of more processed food out of the food service department, and we cook daily in all of the kitchens across the school campus, and or take food specifically to the ELC that's been prepared by scratch. And thanks again to Pam, because she's the one that's helped make sure that that can happen every single day. So Pam, on behalf of the 5,009 kids currently in our school district, the entire staff, our parent population, the Board of Education, and the administration, we thank you for your 34 years of service to the school district. You've been a tremendous asset, and you will be missed. Next, I'd like to welcome Patty Parker. Patty Parker is the coordinator of the before after school age childcare program. Patty became officially New Albany in 2015. Prior to that, she was actually on campus working for the YWCA program for our before and after school program for students. So Patty is here as early as 6 a.m. and she leaves as late as 6:30 p.m., even though pickup's supposed to be at 6 o'clock. Sometimes there's a hiccup and kids cannot be left alone. So Patty can be here anytime during those 12.5 hours across our school campus, serving the needs of kids. She's created engaging, vital programs. She's basically taken a model and New Albanyized it. So she had an incredible expertise at the YWCA, but we wanted to take that program to the next level and create something unique and special for New Albany. And I think Patty has done that in the last 3 years as the coordinator for the program. It's grown tremendously. There's a waiting list for people to participate. We've expanded summer programming to include the kids camp. And Patty's daily Pattytudes for positive attitude. So she has Pattytudes for positive attitude, tricks for the kids, have been well received, and she spent many countless hours helping our kids in the before and after school program. So Patty, on behalf of the Board of Education, our parents, our students, and everyone that you serve, including the administration, we'd like to thank you for your service to the New Albany Plain Local School District. And I wish you well as you visit the other part of the state with your little lakefront for your retreat.
Thank you.
Our third person this evening, the board knows extremely well, is Dr. Marilyn Troyer, our assistant superintendent. So Marilyn joined the school district in 2011 as the chief of innovation, improvement, and human capital. She was the IIHC. So she is now the assistant superintendent within the school district. During her time, she's been instrumental in leading the human resources department on a daily basis for all personnel happenings across our school district. She's a wealth of information, knowledge, and professionalism. I consider her an incredible asset that will be a tremendous loss to our school district. She's the yin to my yang is kind of what I joke about. We're supposed to be indestructible, but it's going to be hard because Marilyn's had 40 years in public service, and she's an incredible friend. She's a great partner, and she's a wonderful professional to work with every single day. So I'm going to miss Marilyn's right hand because I am left-handed, so she's the right. So the left and the right. But Marilyn recently became a grandmother. She had her first grandson. His name is Cyrus. So she has an incredible reason after 40 years in public service and education to stay home and play with the new grandbaby. So Marilyn, on behalf of the Board of Education, the administration, and the students, the staff, and the parents of our school district, we thank you for your service. You will be tremendously missed. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
As we celebrate the accomplishment and the experience of departing from our school district this evening, I also have the honor to introduce new administrators that are coming to our school district. I'd like to start with Mr. John Hood. I'm going to invite John to come to the podium as I speak about him. John is going to be the new Director of Student Services, Safety, and Security for the New Albany Plain Local School District. John brings an extensive background in educational administration and knowledge of best practices in providing outstanding student services. As he joins our district in this new role for Director of Student Services, Safety, and Security, specifically working within the well-being aspects for the well-being initiative within our school district, safety, security, the R factor, food services from a customer service perspective, and transportation from a customer service perspective, because it's all related to student services. John's currently principal at Maryland Elementary School in Bexley for the last 14 years. So we stole John from Bexley. We're really excited. John's incredible. It was a joy to talk to him and learn about this background in law enforcement and the experiences that he's had specifically working with Bexley Police Department or for the Fairfield County Sheriff's Department. He is a canine handler. His canine companion is named Darius. So that'll be something that we introduce to the school campus. Upon John's arrival, is that John is also a canine handler for Darius, and I think that'll be an incredible asset to our school district as well. John's spoken nationally on many topics, including safety and security and emergency operation plans. He's a master teacher. He's award-winning teacher from the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation. He's won the Christopher Columbus Award for Outstanding Educator. And he's just a tremendous professional. So I think he's going to be an incredible asset to the administrative team and most importantly to the safety and welfare of students and staff across our entire school campus every single day. for all things that he's going to be doing and the buckets of stuff that I talked about. So John, on behalf of the school district, I'd like to welcome you officially. The board will receive my formal recommendation to hire you this evening, and I invite you to make any comments that you would like to.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sawyers. Just listening to those very kind words, I wasn't positive you were talking about me there for a second. I was like, it sounds like a pretty remarkable accomplishments there. But I want to genuinely greet you and thank you for this opportunity tonight. And maybe more than an opportunity for me, it really sort of feels like a privilege, just a real privilege to be able to serve in this capacity. If I think about my sort of desire for my life, we want to be able to take our passions that we have, those things that we've developed, those things that we're truly passionate about, combine that with skills that we've developed over years as I've sort of walked this educational journey, and in kind of a Venn diagram kind of way, bring those together and find a place where we can serve using those passions and those skills. And that's really my desire in life. And I feel like this position with New Albany Plain Local Schools is like the perfect fit to accomplish that. So from a personal standpoint, I want to thank you for that, because those are kind of rare opportunities in life, I think, to find moments like that. This was a really quick process for me in terms of this interview process and the and conversations that we had. And just this last Friday, I was coming in for sort of a final conversation, and with Mr. Sawyers and a couple of representatives from the board. And as I was walking out of my elementary school in Bexley, a little girl named Bethany stopped me as I was leaving to come here. She didn't know I was coming here, but she stopped me. She said, "Mr. Hood, it's Teacher Appreciation Week." She said, "I know you're not my teacher, but I want to appreciate you anyway." And she handed me this card on the way out the door. And I sort of knelt down with her, and she read this for me. And it says, "Dear Mr. Hood, you're a good principal, and you keep us safe in a fire grill. You keep us safe in tornado grills." And then it says, "You make people feel better." And then it says, right where this big heart is, and she says, "More importantly, you make me feel better." And I think as I think about what I really have as a desire in my life, these are sort of first grade words that describe exactly what I hope to do with my life in New Albany, which is to just help students feel safe, feel included, feel valued, feel like they're in a place where they are connected. And so I appreciate this opportunity. I'm looking forward with anticipation for what the future holds for all of us. And in a very genuine way, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you. I also realized I just moved the slides like 3 slides. So.
Okay.
Additionally, this evening, I also have the opportunity to introduce Barry Ward and Patrick Garrity. So I'm going to start with Barry because he currently works in the school district. So Barry is currently Dean of Students that's split between New Albany Primary School and New Albany Intermediate School. On a daily basis, he works to try to support 2,000 kids between the two buildings that are growing towards 2,100 next year with increased services related to students with special needs. So based upon the changing needs within the building and based upon the conversations we've had as a leadership team, Barry's current position as Dean of Students is going to be abolished at the end of the school year. Barry will become an assistant principal based upon his current professional growth that's happened throughout this past year and what he's doing personally and professionally. Has earned the right to become one of the assistant principals at the elementary level, and he will be assigned to New Albany Primary School beginning in the fall. So Barry's done a tremendous job this past year. He's been in the district for 19 years total as a classroom teacher, and then prior to this year for becoming the Dean of Students, has worked dominantly in the adaptive physical education world for students with special needs. He's got many, many tremendous assets. He's going to be an incredible person to join the leadership team. He was the lead for the R Factor initiative at the primary school this year for rollout purposes this spring. He's become just a proven. He was this quiet person that people really didn't know. It was like the best kept secret for many. And then we discovered who is Barry Ward. So Barry's done an incredible job over the course of the last 2 weeks going through the interview process for the assistant principalship. And we will publicly announce him tonight after the board meeting as the incoming assistant principal for New Albany Primary School. Congratulations, Barry.
I also want to thank Superintendent Sawyers and Scott Emery and our elementary administrative team for believing in me, having confidence in me, and helping me learn and grow and develop this year as a professional. You know, a year ago, I never would have imagined I'd be standing here being introduced as assistant principal, but I'm looking forward to a new role, a new journey, and to see what lies in store. I'm going to steal a page from Mr. Hood here and share something that a student shared with me on Friday, which kind of summarizes how I go about my day-to-day job. He says, Mr. Ward is an all-star because he teaches kids stuff that they did wrong and how to fix it. He likes me because I'm honest, and he's always calm about it. And that's kind of who I am. So thanks again.
Congratulations, Barry. Next, please welcome Patrick Garrity. Patrick is going to be the New Albany Intermediate School Assistant Principal for grades 4 through 6. Mr. Garrity brings an extensive background in curriculum instruction, leadership, and a passion and dedication to individual student education to New Albany. He currently serves as the administrative intern in the Groveport-Madison School District, in addition to his role as a third grade teacher. He works with the administrative intern, focuses on increasing student achievement, strengthening community collaboration, and enhancing school culture. Patrick's got an interesting background based upon his work prior to going to Groveport. He's been a Title I coordinator for literacy purposes, and he's also had experience working in the charter school world. So Patrick's got an interesting past that's actually going to benefit the school district based upon his focus in literacy and mathematics, and dominantly what it can do to ultimately increase academic achievement and outcomes that we're targeting for his role, specifically at New Albany Intermediate School. Patrick is married to Alyssa, and their children are Nora and Joseph. So Patrick, congratulations and welcome to the school district.
Thank you, guys. I wish I would have thought to bring something from one of my students. That was not in the prep email, so I apologize. I just wanted to say how humbled and honored I am to be here today. I'm very excited to continue the great work that Mrs. Nowak and Ms. Toma have put in the intermediate building. I want to strive to make our school district the best in Ohio. These students deserve it. The families deserve it. These teachers deserve it. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you to the board, Principal Sawyers, for the opportunity. I'm excited to get to work.
So my last comment for the Board of Education, in case you were not aware, there are 10 days of school left. So every day that we're in the building, the kids remind us. It's been fun. State testing has concluded. It was a rat race as normal, just because of the whirlwind that actually occurs. But kudos to the entire building team, the leadership team, and administrators and teachers who make it happen every single day to meet all the requirements for state testing. AP testing, Dwight, has concluded at the high school, correct? Or is there 2 more days? All right, so the rest of this week is still AP. So we'll finish the AP examinations. Those results will come back in July. But the kids are counting down. Clearly, you can just feel the vibe in the building. And honestly, some teachers, or parents are too. Well, teachers may be too, but parents are too. When we see them have a bus pickup, they're even telling us. I mean, I saw one this morning that actually has the sign in her window. She's ripping down the numbers like they're counting down for drop off. It was kind of cute. I've never seen that. That's new. But we're ready for the end of the school year. We'll finish strong, as would be expected. And we're happy with everything that's happening. So congratulations to everyone. It appears that we're going to end on a very high note and have a successful school year.
Great. Awesome. Update from Clee, Ms. Arco.
Good evening, Superintendent Sawyers and Board of Education and my fellow colleagues and guests. I normally just pick a handful of things from the plea kudos to share, but honestly, I can't choose tonight because they're all that amazing. So I hope you bear with me for a few minutes. I'd like to start by highlighting the work of Christina Pratt. She was recently selected to be a part of the Standards and Model Curriculum Working Group from the Ohio Department of Education's Office of Curriculum and Assessment. She's going to be working on a writing team for Ohio's Learning Standards for Computer Science. She attended the first session in the beginning of May and will continue to work throughout the summer with her team to further that development. Our first grade students continued our annual collaboration with the Columbus Zoo's Partners in Conservation program. Students learned about mountain gorillas, conservation, and other rainforest animals. And the culminating event, the Family Culture Fest, organized by Cindy Zimmerman, was a huge success, as always. First grade students showed their learning with individual class displays, a choir concert led by Amy Cook and Emily Martin, and they framed African art that was created during their art special with Kristen Howell and Pam McDowell. And the most amazing thing was that they raised $4,000 for PICS, so that was a huge accomplishment. The week of May 14th, several third grade teachers are implementing a computer science mini module called Cutout for CS. It's a cookie-themed module that integrates quality mathematics and computer science to give students an experience that leaves them feeling like they are cut out for computer science. Students will begin to understand that computers are only as smart as humans, and that computer programming is when a human gives a computer an algorithm to follow. You can follow them on Twitter if you'd like to see the module in action. Their lessons emphasize mathematics content through a computer science-focused curriculum, and it's very innovative. In addition to them learning throughout the year about computer programming and computer science, they're also going to be programming a robot to travel the distance around 2 shipwreck sites. They will use a block coding system called Scratch to create their program. Kim Hurst's 7th and 8th grade choir competed at the Music in the Parks Festival on Saturday, April 28th, and they received a first place in their division with a superior rating. They also received an overall junior high choir award from all the middle school choirs that day. Students received feedback about their performances from college professors. They were able to compare their performance to other school areas, and it was wonderfully motivating for them to set a goal and actually achieve it. At the primary building, our art instructors, Pam McDowell and Kristen Howell, offered a clay session to the staff there. The staff were able to decompress, socialize, and get creative making fish sculptures while actually learning clay construction techniques themselves that the kids normally learn. Also at the primary building, Mr. Thomas, the 2nd grader, set out to move a steel ball from one side of the table to the other in the most creative way possible using various forms of force and motion, which is one of our 2nd grade science standards. They problem solved different ways to harness enough force to create ways to push and pull the marble along a path. Students were asked to consider questions such as how much force would be required, was it too much, not enough? They had to consider the weight of the ball, the material of the ball. They thought about science concepts like friction, if it was going to slow the ball down, the angle of the desk to speed up or slow down velocity. And they made a really great video to showcase what they learned. The link is there for you if you'd like to see it. And they applied their knowledge to real-world situations. Students in Patty Banis and Vicki Lasinski's, ceramics and sculpture, honors advanced ceramics and sculpture in AP 3D design class, that's a mouthful, attended a hot glass blowing workshop at the Glass Access Studio in downtown Columbus. They met with a glass artist, and all students designed and created their own glass paperweight. The funding for the project was made available to the students via a grant from the McCoy Art Center. And last but not least, the 5th grade choir under the direction of Linda Lickman and Amy Cook competed at the Music in the Parks event, also on Saturday, April 28th. The students performed 3 pieces of music for 2 collegiate professors and earned a rating of excellent and earned the Esprit de Corps Award. So there are some fabulous things going on across the district. And as always, it's a pleasure for us to share them with you. Thank you.
We have another update this evening from OPSI. Ms. Osborne.
Good evening, Superintendent Sawyers and School Board. OPSI Local 303 held elections in March, and those of you who are in the insurance meetings know that Laura Hartley was elected president and Nitzan Israel was elected vice president. John Goodwin was retained as treasurer, and I'm Deirdre Osborne, and I was elected secretary. Well, wasn't really elected. Nobody else ran. OPSI is once again this weekend at our Founders Day celebration participating in the Stuff a Bus event to collect food items for our local food pantry here in New Albany, and we will I think we're going to put boxes in buildings, and there will be a bus in the parade, and then there will be a bus to stuff full of non-perishable food items at the event, which will be held over here in the parking lot. That's all I have.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Any board liaison reports?
We had our final meeting of the year with the PTO leaders, and I would just like to take the opportunity to publicly thank all of the PTO teams that served this year. They are kind of unsung heroes behind the scenes, doing a lot of work to support our teachers and our parents and our students and help drive our culture. So a big thank you to them for all their contributions this year. And we were able to meet the new incoming presidents for next school year. And it's another great dedicated team. So we're excited to have them and very grateful.
Good, thank you. Any other reports? Okay. Mr. Sawyers.
I'd like to welcome Jessica Mamias to the podium. She's coordinator of assessment and accountability. She's going to walk the Board of Education through a very high-level overview of the 2017 Hanover Substance Use Survey results that we just received back from the school district. Jess.
Good evening. I'm going to go over the substance abuse that was administered in January. Benchmark 5 of the CIP states administers age-appropriate student climate surveys to measure the percentage of students who feel safe at school, supported, and have at least one staff member to approach with problems. Previously, I've shared with you with the board survey results from the Gallup Engagement and Hope Survey and the Hanover Social Emotional Learning Survey. Both surveys were geared towards determining the overall engagement and social emotional well-being of the students at New Albany. The Hanover Substance Abuse Survey is used to determine the following: what substances are students in New Albany using, whether it be alcohol, tobacco, illicit drugs, prescription medication not prescribed to the students, how widespread is the substance use among our students, where and when are students accessing and using the substances, and why are students using substances. The substance survey was administered in 2017 and 2018 and allows for comparisons from year to year. Hanover also allowed us to modify some questions to meet the needs of the district. For example, in 2017, we asked students about substance use in the past 6 months, and we narrowed that down and asked students how often or when you used the substances within the last 30 days. So we are able to tweak those. This survey was administered to students in grades 6 through 12. So our first question, what substances are our students using? Alcohol continues to be the most used substance by New Albany students. While that number has decreased from 2017 to 2018, it is still the most widely used substance. 13% of the students that responded in this survey had admitted to using alcohol at some point in time. Of the illicit drugs, marijuana continues to be the most widely used. So when you look at the graph on your right, you'll see that those percents add up to more than 100% because students could choose any and all particular substances that they had used. When comparing 2017 to 2018, more students indicate that they are not using alcohol, tobacco, illicit drugs, and prescription medications in 2018 compared to 2017. In 2017, 79% of students indicated that they had never used these substances. In 2018, 84% indicated that they had never used these substances. A follow-up question for students that responded to using was the age of initial use. Initial use of the most frequently selected substances occurs in the early to mid-teens. Of the 4 most commonly reported substances used by respondents, alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and prescription medication not prescribed to them, over 50% of the students report that their first use was between the age of 14 and 16. So where are these students first using these substances? So this is just their first. They indicate their first use. Of the students that stated that they drank, smoked, or used drugs, this data represents their first. Friends appear to play a role in the initial drug, tobacco, and alcohol use. In 2018, of those that stated that used a substance, 64% of respondents indicated that their first time that they drank, smoked, or used drugs was with a school friend. 52% indicate that their first use was at the friend's house, and this was an increase over 2017. About 1/3 of students indicate that the first used drug or alcohol with a parent or a guardian, and 44% indicated that their first use was at their own home. So peers continue to be the largest influence on where students are using for the first time. So when we look at how often students are using the substances, we narrowed this down for 2018 in the last 30 days. Please note that this question was only answered by students who indicated that they had used tobacco, marijuana, or prescription drugs. So when you look at these numbers, you'll see an N size. So in that first one of the students that had responded that they had used alcohol, 279 students were responding to this. So not everyone saw these questions. It was dependent on how they responded in an earlier question. While students responded that they had used a substance, the vast majority, While students responded that they had used a substance, the vast majority of respondents indicate that they are not using chewing tobacco, snuff, dip cigars, cigarillos, little cigars, or cigarettes in the past 30 days. While students marked the use of alcohol and marijuana as the most widely used substances, about 50% indicate not having drank alcohol or used marijuana or prescription drugs in the last 30 days. Outside of alcohol, electronic vapor products, your e-cigarettes, your vape pens, had the greatest number of students that stated they had used the e-cigarette in the last 30 days. 61% or 93 students reported using a vapor product. 27 students reported using them almost daily. So not only were we looking at the last 30 days, but then the question wanted to look at binge drinking. Binge drinking, as defined by this survey, is 5 or more drinks within a couple of hours. Of the 277 students reported drinking at some point in time, 75% or 207 students reported that they did not partake in binge drinking. 14%, 39 students reported binge drinking once or twice. There is a small 4% or 11 students that reported binge drinking almost every day. Lifetime prescription drug use. So we're looking at prescription drugs that are not prescribed to the student, but yet they're still taking them. Of the 69 students that reported to taking prescription drugs not prescribed, there appears to be varying consistencies on when the prescription drugs are consumed. The survey did not ask which prescription drug that the student took, just if they had taken a prescription drug without a doctor's prescription. So there's a wide varying in just the lifetime of the prescription drugs, 1 or 2 times, multiple times. It seems to vary across the usage. So where do students use most consistently? Students report the most common locations for substance use are at the friend's home, at their home, or at parties and events outside of school. While substances use at parties, events outside of schools has decreased, the use of substances at school increased slightly. Very few respondents, 3%, indicate that they drink alcohol during school, and most, 66%, report that they drink on the weekends. Slightly more respondents, 11%, indicate that they use marijuana during school, and the number of students overall who report that students typically use substances has increased since 2017. So how are students acquiring their alcohol or prescription drugs? Similar to last year, students report that students in their school usually get alcohol and prescription medications from friends, and students are able to access alcohol and prescription medications from friends and from friends' homes. Reasons for alcohol and drug use. The top 3 reasons why students respondents use alcohol and prescription medications are because it makes them feel good, they use to escape their lives, and they also because they are bored. The one that stands out for me is I drink because I'm bored. From the National Center for Educational Statistics, students that are involved in extracurricular activities have fewer absences from school, are more engaged and are less likely to partake in the use of alcohol or drugs. As discussed during the overview of the Gallup survey, the district continues to look at different opportunities for students to stay engaged with students in pre-K through 12th grade. In addition to the substance questions, the Hanover survey asked questions about students' perceptions around schools' handling of drug and alcohol in the buildings. The majority of student respondents feel that school is concerned with the students' well-being. 72% feel the school is trying to get rid of substances in the school, and 69% feel that the schools are trying to reduce negative behavior. 53% feel that the schools celebrate positive behavior, and 51% feel that the school make it easy for students to get support when they need it. While the district does provide supports for students, students may not be aware of the services as they could access. With the addition of the prevention clinician next year, it will be imperative that the district school continue to communicate about the resources that are available to them and how to access those resources. Next steps. The student service team continues to analyze whether it be the Gallup, the social emotional learning survey, or the substance use survey in terms of their action planning. Increased programming related to drug and alcohols for the 2018-19 school year, and grant-funded drug and alcohol prevention clinician being added for the 18-19 school year to help students and families. They will develop programs focused on recovery from substance use to help students who are already using alcohol, tobacco, illicit drugs, and prescription medications, and increase parental and community education and involvement in student prevention and recovery, since most substance occurs outside of school. Questions, comments?
About a 25% decrease in respondents from last year to this year. Any idea why?
I think it was one of the things that I saw. There's about 700 less students that responded this year. It's about 100 less per grade level. I believe when I spoke with Dr. Hamilton and Mr. Emery, it has to do with when those surveys were administered, and so we weren't able to capture the entire grade level.
We get the same question, and we're going to change that for next year. We need those 700 kids.
What was it about the timing? I'm sorry.
Testing.
Oh, okay.
Because we had added the additional survey from Hanover, remember when the other school invited us to participate in the social emotional learning survey? We added that, so then that moved this survey back about 6 weeks, and by doing that, we were in the midst of state testing.
It makes comparing all the other categories year to year very difficult because there's no way of knowing what cohort didn't take it.
I was curious on the school perceptions category. Did we ask those questions last year as well? Or maybe I'm misreading it.
I believe so, but I don't have those in front of me, those results.
On the one that jumped out at me, I didn't know if there's any data from last year or any benchmarking data on, looks like 53% of those surveyed thought that we celebrate or reward positive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It just struck me as low, perhaps. I don't know if there's any viewpoint on that.
Oh, 53, right. So you're looking at just the top two, right? So that would be agree, strongly agree, and not including the neither, the middle category?
That's the way I was looking at it, sure.
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't have that information in front of me, but I do believe that this was on the last year's as well.
Okay.
I can send the comparison of last year versus this year, even to Phil's point, that with 700 kids less, we can still show the comparison to our best of our ability, because we asked Hanover for that as well. We have that.
I know this is a completely anonymous survey, but when the results are tabulated, are you able to see results, in individual selections on results? Meaning, I'm just curious if there's some consistency among the students that are always strongly disagreeing with all these perceptions of the school, or if it is a wide group of kids that some disagree here, some disagree there. I having some experience with polling, I know that there are certain percentages of people who will just answer something because they want to answer it a certain way. So I'm just curious what percentage of this strongly disagree, or frankly strongly agree, are just statistical noise?
I'd have to go back and look, but at this particular one, I don't believe they gave us the individual, like, I did on the SEL, but I didn't for this one. So I don't have the individual, like, whoever the respondent was.
Right.
But I do have a breakdown by grade level, by gender, so we can disaggregate it that way.
I think it's pretty important we maintain the anonymity
Absolutely.
component of the survey. I don't want there to be any question that
Correct.
we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all aggregated data.
And it goes back to the point. I mean, it's purposely, we've tried to facilitate through Hanover to try to give the kids the comfort that there is still some anonymity. We've had the conversation about, well, you're still using a computer, it has an IP address, and it's basically being tagged to that computer, but it's still going through Hanover to come back to us. So we don't see all of that. We just get the aggregate data back from Hanover to try to keep the arm's length away from the data to protect the anonymity of the student.
But you could still do that and you could get this full survey answer though, without.
Yeah. And Hanover does go through when they clean it. I mean, because we've heard that in the conference calls with them specifically, that they'll remove the survey data that is erroneous because they put in, my name is Mickey Mouse, I love drugs, the open-ended text boxes where a student's just being comical, that gets thrown out. So that's removed before they actually send us the final deposit.
How long has Hanover been doing this?
This is their second year. So we had switched and created our own because we wanted to be able to customize. That's one of the benefits. And we've tried to increase the questions or decrease the questions or the types of questions. But that's one of the benefits of actually using the partnership with Hanover is that we can customize the questions based upon specific interest in the school district or things that we're hearing either at the middle school or the high school from students or from their parents.
As long as we maintain continuity across years of the same questions, because it's patterns
Right. You want to see
and trends, not anything specific.
And that is the intent, because we're having the same conversation related to the social emotional learning survey that we were invited to participate in this year. It had useful data and information that came back that we could immediately use at the building level to try to help students. So it's our intent to continue that. We have to look at the timing on this one because of how it got pushed out 6 weeks to then hit the cycle of state testing. We have to change that if we're going to offer the third survey for kids.
Does Hanover provide any parallel benchmarking data compared to?
We've asked for
Ohio
that
or
for like
statewide?
other school districts. We've actually invited other school districts to use our survey, much like we were invited to the SEL survey. We've tried to encourage other school districts through Hanover and the other schools that they work with to actually use our survey elsewhere to see if we could actually get benchmarking data against other school districts.
Other questions? Board policy.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board of Education members, letter C this evening under discussion items is board policy. There are 14 policies that were presented to you for your review for revision and or new. So I'm going to start first with the 12 that are revisions. The revisions dominantly pertain to changes in Ohio Revised Code and or updates that have occurred in a couple cases related to federal regulations for students with special needs or otherwise. So those have been incorporated into the policies, and we've tried to fast track them for the purposes of student handbooks that'll be coming to the board in January in preparation for August. So those were specifically pulled to try to keep them on track to continue to move forward. The two new policies have the asterisks. They're 6233 and 6680. The first is amenities for participants at meetings and or other occasions, and the second is recognition. And these are requested through the Auditor of State's office to affirm that it is the intent that it's an appropriate use of public resources to recognize staff members or students. So certificates, awards, pins, anything that we would give that's nominal in value to recognize the achievement. The state auditor is asking for a policy put in place that says, yes, we as a Board of Education in the school district want to continue to do that to honor kids or to honor the achievements of staff members. The second is amenities for participation at meetings and or other occasions. And an example would be this evening that we chose to host a retirement reception and serve punch, water, and cake. And there's an expense associated to the cake, but it's an appropriate use that we're endorsing, that we want to honor the retirees, so therefore we're offering cake. If we held a meeting and it was an all-day event and we chose to bring in a lunch to give to 30 participants that were at a strategic planning meeting or something else, then we would have the right to serve them lunch. So the state auditor is asking for confirmation that the Board of Education has a policy in place throughout the state of Ohio. So these are now coming forward as new policy recommendations based upon the Auditor of State. That's where they're coming from. Any questions related to any of the specific policies? Thank you.
Thank you.
And letter D is Ms. Jenkins.
It's May update time. So we did just update the forecast in January because of the passage of the permanent improvement levy. So I've updated this, tweaked it a little bit more for May because we have all of our tax revenues in now, except of course for rollback homestead, but we know what that should be based on our calculations. I did send this out to you on Friday. I'm still going back and comparing to October because that's really more of a budget to almost actual. And our revenue, and I've been talking about this, the general property real estate revenue is up $2.7 million. And based on our calculations, we know that just over $1 million is due to the SALT tax, so the state and local tax deduction that they're starting to eliminate. So we know that we have folks who were able to pay a full year of taxes in December did that. That means next year we're going to reduce our collection because it crosses fiscal years, and we know they've already paid the full year. They're not going to pay it again. We do know that $1.5 million of the increase is based on tax or tax increment financing payments from the county auditor's office. We've actually reached out to the office about 3 times now. I'm not going to give up to find out what caused that increase. They weren't sure. They were going to look into it, but didn't get a response back for tonight. So what I've done in the forecast, obviously we've received the money. So in the current year, I've increased the forecast. I've not increased it throughout the forecast because I don't know whether or not that was based on, appraisal updates. So their values were updated, or was that some one-time delinquent payment? So once I find that out, I will have an answer before we do our October forecast. But once I find that out, if it is something that's ongoing, we will then increase the forecast going forward. And I'll report back to you to let you know what that is.
But as of now, the 2.8 total variance above what was expected, 2.5 million of it was either known, 1 million is known to be one time and not recurring, and we'll actually give it back in the forecast or in the budget for next year.
Correct.
And another 1.5 million, we don't know whether it's ongoing or not.
Correct. So being conservative, I'm not adding it the rest of the 5 years just in this year. Then we'll update it once I get some firm answers from the auditor's office. And then 235,000 of that is because of our reappraisal update with new construction and in the inside millage. So even though House Bill 920 keeps a limit, it limits how much those taxes can grow, the inside mills do still grow, and we knew that. Unrestricted grants and aid, we're about $70,000 under what we had anticipated. That, the state aid just kind of works itself out throughout the year. I'll be surprised if we don't end right where we have it figured out, but it's just changes. If in October, if you remember, we didn't really have what the formula was going to be. And so now we have that formula, the real formula. So, but again, $69,000, so not necessarily a material amount when you're looking at 4.1 million. Property tax allocation is where we get the personal utility property, public utility, personal property, and then of course those had a reappraisal increase as well. So we are seeing about $160,000 more in that line, and that's been updated. All other revenue is running on plan.
Can I add, just real quick? I know you have the 235 for the reappraisal. I know there was a lot of community angst over the reappraisal when the auditor was going through that process. That 235 that would be what we will end up getting from. So Even
So
though
an
there was some
11% value increase, and I know my taxes, my value went up 19%, but other people's didn't go up quite as much, and so House Bill 920 kind of evens all of that out. So even though my tax bill, may have increased, I didn't get an 11% increase in my overall taxes.
Right.
So 235 is what that is.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yes. Then when we move to expenditures, we have been talking about the attrition that we know that we've identified, the savings for personnel, not only attrition, but also in when we have the new staff that is in the forecast, and we do, like for certified staff, we budget at a master's in 4 level. That came in under that level in total, and also under the level that we have for classified staff as well. So we know between those things that we expect to see about a $750,000 reduction in personnel services, employee retirement and benefit, because of the changes that we've made through negotiations with our 2 plans. We expect to see at least $127,000. I expect that that'll probably be more than that, but we'll know that for sure as we work through the rest of this year. Supplies and materials is actually an increase of $100,000, and that really it's a wide range of items. So you have classroom supplies, office supplies, but you also have bus repair parts, tires and tubes, you have fuel, those kinds of things. And so in total, those things were above what we had in the budget by about $100,000. Then capital outlay, we reduced that by $1.9 million. We've been talking about that because you also see then lower, we increased the transfer outline, and that's where we moved what we had planned in the capital outlay line to move it. We have to move it from that line to transfer line to send it over to permanent improvement. And then in fiscal year 19, the only change that I made to assumption was that we know that we had to add another school psychologist based on caseloads of our special needs population. So that was added into that as well. The overall effect to the 5-year forecast from just January is a $3 million increase in the ending cash balance at the end of the 5th year.
The only other comment that I want to make, and it goes back to line 3.010 for personal services, that attrition savings for personnel reductions in the school district exceeds the continuous improvement plan goal that we had established for $609,000. So right now, Ms. Jenkins and I are still forecasting we should come in around $750,000 plus the additional savings related to healthcare, plus the additional savings on Bureau's workers' comp. So we will exceed the $609,000 goal that we had established at the start of the school year.
What I would also like to just prep the board for is that at the end of each year, we usually are looking at how much do we have more, so less expenditures or more revenue than we expected, and should we move that money then into permanent improvement, knowing that we have things beyond even what our permanent improvement levy will pay for. We've identified that. We know we're still going to spend general fund money. We promised that, but we could start to move some of those excess funds or under budgeted amounts over to PI. So if we get to that place, then we would do that in June before we close the fiscal year.
And we are anticipating bringing that forward as a recommendation for transfer, and case in point would be the roofs. You know that we were forecasted to do 1.35 million this year, or 1.56, excuse me, this year, and 1.3 next year on roofing. So the PI levy generates just over $1 million. We transfer 1.3. So we know there's additional revenue that's going to be required for continued roof repair based upon the estimates that we received through the government bid process. So that will be an example of when we've talked about trying to meet the benchmark goals, but at the same time for due diligence and looking for prudence towards the future, make that transfer recommendation in June to put those additional dollars as the set aside, because I already know there's a $1.3 million expenditure facing us next summer for the primary school roof and then the remaining metal roof at the high school for B, C, and D adjacent to the gym building. So we already know that that needs to happen. And it will exceed the dollars that are actually generated by the PI.
And as a reminder, the PI levy generates about $1.1 million.
I'm kind of expanding the forecast discussion, but is there any update that you could give us on where we are moving? I mean, I know people are going to start seeing a lot of construction happening as soon as school's over. We've got the roofing happening. We've got the middle school gym.
Right.
Can you just give us an update on where we are?
So Cincinnati Floors, last update we've seen was May 21st. They should be here by May 21st to start the middle school gym rehab process to replace it based upon the insurance claim. And all the information we have back from the insurance committee or company is that once the floor is ripped out, they'll verify there's no additional pipe damage that could have been caused that might have caused the water. So once that happens, the claim should be approved and will be reimbursed for the differential. For right now, the cost was $114,000 to replace the floor. We should receive $100,000 less deductible for replacement purposes. So that's on schedule and it'll be installed prior to August 1st. We told them July 31st was the drop dead, but they're anticipating 8 to 12 weeks once construction starts in the gym. And it should move fairly well. But we currently don't use the gym. We've relocated everything out of it because of the conditions. It looks like a skateboard park is the nicest way I can describe it. Kids are asking every day because they're still in there for lunch and they can look through the glass doors. When do we get to play? And they'd love to use it as a skateboard park, but we can't open it for that purpose. But there really are some nice hills that have been naturally made based upon the water damage. The high school roofing, we actually will close. All the communications are being prepped right now to come out to our greater community. Construction at the high school, staging is Thursday, May 31st, the day after teachers leave the school campus. Construction on high school roofs start Friday, June 1st, and will continue through the first week of August. So we have communications that'll come out specifically on that to show all the closures and what's happening at the high school. But the high school quad, dominantly the quad area that people are familiar with in the center quad coming through the main gate, will be closed all summer.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Jenkins on the forecast? Our next item is public participation. And with none, we'll move right back to the treasurer. And I would ask for a motion for tonight's treasurer's items A through C.
So moved.
Second.
Bush and Mr. Newmoff.
So we have the monthly financial statements, and you'll look through that, and everything that I just talked about with the 5-year forecast is starting to be reflected in that. Some things we have timing issues on, but at the end of the day, we're on plan to end under budget in total. Then the 5-year forecast we just talked about, and then we also have appropriation modification. One is the permanent improvement fund. We're increasing that by the $1.3 million that we transferred into that. So we transferred it over from the general fund, but in order to actually spend the money, we have to increase the appropriation in the permanent improvement fund. So there are dollars that are associated with that. And then 022 is an increase of $67,000. That's where we transfer money in to operate the McCoy Center. And so because we know that we've approved the carpet, we're going to get that money from the Community Foundation, who's holding the 3 entities, but I have to be able to spend the money, and so we have to increase the appropriation to be able to do that. But we will have an offsetting revenue from the money that's been set aside by us, the city, and the township for that expense.
Do you know when that's happening? When that installation?
This summer, and McCoy will be closed for 2 weeks. So we're working on scheduling right now with the contractor. So McCoy carpet, all of it, lobby and theater is being replaced this summer.
Any other questions? Do I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Vice President Darrow?
Yes.
President McClelland?
Yes. Moving on to superintendent's items, may I have a motion on superintendent's items A through C, including the addendum for this evening?
So moved.
Mr. Darrow.
Second.
Ms. Kalinowski. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, President McClellan. Board of Education members, we'll start with personnel this evening. You have standard employee action items that occur annually. This agenda includes contract renewals for classified non-teaching and certified licensed teachers in our school district that are on limited contracts to continue on a limited contract pursuant to their terms and conditions of employment and or to convert to continuing based upon requirements within Ohio Revised Code. So those appear, this is a fairly lengthy personnel agenda because those typically show up one time per year in April or May. It's May, and here they are. Other action items this evening are to approve employee resignations from the school district that we received notification for, so we can go through the justification process to determine if those positions will be replaced and or abolished within the school district. We also have employees that have successfully completed their probationary terms of employment that will become eligible for a contract with the school district as a classified staff member, which are also included in the agenda this evening. The hiring of the administrative personnel on the addendum that I spoke about at the beginning of the meeting, as well as a recommendation to enact a reduction in force within the school district. So this is not something we relish doing, but it's a necessary personnel action item this evening within the school district based upon student enrollment and course selection, specifically in the area of Spanish. We are overstaffed by a Spanish teacher. We do not need her full-time professional skills for next year, and therefore, under Ohio Revised Code, have to go through the process necessary based upon her licensure that she presently exists to provide her public notice of the intent to reduce her contract through reduction in force. And again, not something that we like to do, but we cannot justify being overstaffed in a specific core content area for which students did not register to justify the fact that additional teacher would be necessary. So unfortunately this evening, there's also a recommendation for motion to approve a reduction in force for one staff member on our certificated licensed staff. Letter B this evening for general business. The big action item that I want to talk about is the approval for the graduating class of 2008. The action taken by the Board of Education this evening makes the list eligible for graduation ceremonies to occur at the end of the month. They still have to meet any and all requirements to be issued the high school diploma. So your action then becomes the follow-up by the due diligence of the building, both through Mr. Carter and my office and working with the school counselors. We have to certify that each of them have met the requirements, but you have to approve that provided that they have met the requirements, they're allowed to be issued a diploma from the New Albany Plain Local School District. So we're very proud of the class of 2018 and would recommend that you do approve their eligibility for the diploma this evening. And then lastly, under the donation section, as always, we're very, very proud of the numerous donations and the generosity of the community and the philanthropic community and the benefactors that come to our school district to benefit our kids every single day, and are really grateful for everything they do contribute. There's a significant donation on tonight's agenda related to the New Albany Community Foundation, and it's for the donors to the author visits. So there are one dominant family in New Albany that contributes to the foundation specifically to support the opportunity to bring authors to the school district to allow students to have direct access to understand their world both as a writer and or as an illustrator. So it's up to a committee that actually goes through a process to select the authors that would have genres that are most specific to specific needs of students or interest of students for things that could be occurring in the school district. Mrs. LeBeau, as an example, just released her middle school newsletter for parents for summer reading. And there are 3 choices for students for the author that's coming to the middle school next year. So the genre specifically and the books that were selected for summer reading tie specifically to the author that's coming to the middle school next year. Any questions about any of the agenda items I may answer?
With none, I will ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Darrow?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
President McClelland?
Yes. We have our second opportunity for public participation, and with none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Derek, who? I'll give it to Mr. Bush tonight. Could a roll call, please?
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski? Who?
Mr. Darrow was one. Darrow and then Bush. I'm
Darrow,
sorry.
Bush.
Vice President Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Kalinowski?
Yes.
Mr. Newmoff?
Yes.
President McClelland?
Yes.
I figured you'd get around to me anyway. I wasn't worried.
We're adjourned.